Hello everybody, I'm here for the final just overall video relating to Sonichu, hopefully. I hope by whatever god anybody believes in, multiple gods, a single god, any defining force that protects any of us, that Chris does not write another, and if he does I will be here to stop it with my pal Dane, but let's hope that day never comes, so hopefully this is the final video relating to this. And this is going to be a little something I'll do at the end of all my Let's Reads, since this is a series I hope to continue doing for a long time. This is just going to be what I like to call the reflection at the end of every single Let's Read. And basically I'm just going to sit here, talk about the overall feel of the comic, what it was like reading it, who I brought in to read it with me if I do bring people in, stuff like that. Just overall, just sit here, and I hope you guys can leave taking away something, maybe thinking about something about the comic you didn't think about while reading it with us and with me and whatever. So I actually made a little list here. I'm actually prepared. I'm prepared to record. So I guess I'll start with the overall feeling of the comic as I was reading it. The overall feeling for me, Dane is not going to be here. This is my show, so pretty much if I do bring people in, they're usually not going to be doing the reflection with me, since it is my show, so this is sort of just me. But pretty much all of my opinions that I'm saying now are Dane agrees with me to a certain extent, and if he has anything to add, which he probably will because he always likes to add things, he'll put it in the comments. I know how he is. He's nosy. He'll watch this and put it in the comments so you guys can talk with him if you want. So the overall feeling for me was pretty much, it was horrible. A lot of people say this is the worst comic on the internet, this is the worst webcomic, and trust me, I agree. A lot of people say that My Immortal is the worst fan fiction. That's not a comic, just overall. And I gotta disagree. It's bad. It's really, really bad. It's one of the worst things I've ever read. But it's not the worst fan fiction. I'm pretty sure I could find way worse. It's just not the worst. Sonichu, on the other hand, I don't think I could find something to rival it. I really don't think I can. Not only is a lot of comics on the internet, generally one of the things that makes them really bad is the artist. I don't mean like the art and how the artist draws the art. I mean like the person the artist is. You know? If that person is a rapist, then when they make comics, you're probably going to know that they're a rapist, which will then affect your overall thinking about how their comic is done. Now, because Christian is such a sexist, homophobic, racist, asshole piece of shit, you automatically, your mind will then notice all of the subtle things. Well, I say subtle like he's trying to hide it, but no, it's not subtle, but you get my point. Like you can notice all of the things that he does. The way that he drew Rosachu as this giant beast when she has the power of woman, which just is wrong. The only good thing to come out of that is the comments. I asked the woman viewers specifically, tell us what happens when you get angry, and I only received like one or two answers, but at the time I'm doing this reflection for you, but it was the greatest answer, and I don't think anybody can rival it. She said, "When I get angry, my boobs turn into giant rotating blades that decapitate my enemies while I spit my larva into them so that they can progress to their next larval stage," which I thought was absolutely hilarious, and if I could make some sort of award, a medal, or a trophy to give that woman, the viewer who wrote that comment, if I could give her something that is in the shape of a giant mantis with like blades on its tits, I would do that. But unfortunately I'm not a metal worker, though I do have a friend who's finishing college as a blacksmith. He's doing blacksmithing and minoring and sculpting, so I may have to hit him up for something. Anyway, what was I saying? I got so distracted. So yeah, you notice all of the subtle things that he does, which is a shame. So overall, the feeling is really just mean-spirited and just cruel at times, just oppressive to women, racist to any race. I mean, Racist, I generally think, is something when you specifically target a certain race. Like, you're racist towards black people because you're mean to black people. Or you're racist to Indians because you make fun of Indians. No, he's mean to anybody who's not him. Anybody who is not him or a female that he can fuck without any sort of, like, backlash, then he's just cruel to them, which I think is incredibly sad. I mean, the only one time he says specifically that he's not mean to is his father, which is understandable, I suppose. I mean, without his mother and father, this fucking piece of shit has nothing. Because he doesn't have his own house, he lives with them. I believe his father passed away, and his mother is still alive. As soon as his mother passes, I really want to know what happens to him. I really do. He's not going to be able to survive. He's going to be... He does have a brother. I hope his brother just sends him out on the street, to be honest with you. So, the comic just feels mean as you're reading it. And I've already read it. I brought in Dane specifically, because not only is he a good friend of mine, watch, I said good friend, Dane is going to be like, in the comments, ooh, Tony complimented me. I guarantee it. Anyway, I brought him in specifically because he doesn't know anything about anything about Sonichu. He didn't know anything when we first started. So it was good to get that perspective of it's not going to be entirely mean-spirited until he realizes how it is. And I don't really know the point in time in the comic when he realizes this, but I really want to go back and rewatch him to figure out when that is. So for him, his opinion's going to be a lot different, but for me, I already read it. I know how bad it is. The only one I haven't read is the final thing. The final one. I read everything else. I've read it like 2 or 3 times, before I did this whole Let's Read. The only one I didn't read specifically was the final issue, the 90-page epic. I didn't want to read that. So I wanted to be completely surprised for it, to be honest. And I guess I just sort of got lazy when I was reading through the comics the first time. I just didn't want to read that. I guess my mind sort of subconsciously was planning for me to read this on camera someday and didn't want me to read that part so I could be surprised and plan for it. So yeah, that was my overall feeling of the comic and reading it to you guys. It is fun reading to you guys. I really do enjoy it. I like hearing what you guys have to say and things I can do to improve and stuff like that. So I hope to make other Let's Reads interesting because the material will be, very much less interesting considering it's not Sonichu, which is probably the funniest thing ever and the most demented. So let's move on to the next thing. The art. The fucking art. Now, I gotta be honest, I made a list, like I pointed out, of all the things I can talk about. Not all of them, but just a few points I could talk about. Everything has multiple bullet points to it and sub-bullet points. The art, I just wrote art. On my screen right now, it just says art. That's it. Because I don't need to write anything. I can't do the art justice. I can't fucking say anything. What can I say about the art that you guys can't say without looking at it? No. Without even looking at it. If you are blind, this comic is so poorly drawn. It just shoots out this shit-smelling, it smells of like sewage and just melted dog shit on the side of a street in the inside of a city bus when everybody's sick and they vomited in the bus. It's that smell put together and it just shoots out of your computer and you can smell it. Blind people can feel how bad the art is. People who are blind and can't smell and can't taste, the art screams in their ear that it's bad. No matter, you could have no senses at all, and the art just feels bad. I don't know how. I have all of my senses, I'm pretty sure, but for people who have no senses at all, I don't even know if that exists, but if it does, I'm pretty sure they could feel how bad this art is. It looks like something that mentally challenged kids in the 1st grade drew. I never drew that bad, to be honest. I was well, that's not a good example. When I was little, I was actually a bit of an art prodigy, but then I just sort of, I was like, I don't like art anymore. But the kids who were the worst kids at art, when I was in first grade still drew better than this. He had like 40 fucking years to own his skills, to hone them. What has he done? The art just gets worse, and it's lazy. It's so lazy. And I don't mean like, oh, he doesn't draw joints, or oh, he doesn't, in one scene, he doesn't draw one extra eyelash, while in all the other scenes there's an extra eyelash. No. I mean like, there's not a fucking background. You know? Half of the pages don't have backgrounds. So when there's something like, way back where there was Saruman, Wesley, and Chris, and they all received their magic ancient powers, okay? They were floating in the void, and there's no background. Now, you could either take that as they're floating in a void, in another sort of weird spiritual dimension, or he just got lazy and didn't draw the fucking background. Which, I'm gonna go with, he got lazy and didn't draw the fucking background. The art, I could just critique it for hours, and it wouldn't make any difference. The art is just so bad. There's nothing I can say that you guys can't, like, nobody can compliment it either. There's no way to say that it's good. He doesn't even trace good. I mean, he should be able, it's not like Sonichu is original, okay? At its very core, Sonichu takes elements from Pikachu and Sonic put together. So any normal artist would probably, unless they remake the character, they would probably start off, I'm not an artist anymore, I don't know what to do, so I assume you would start out by drawing sketches of Pikachu and Sonic. That way you could learn all the intricacies of both of them individually, then making it easier for you to combine them. But he didn't do that. That's why it looks so shitty. That's why sometimes when he draws the circle for the base of the head of Sonichu, and then sometimes he'll forget to draw like the fucking quills on the back, he'll just like scribble it in. It just, the art is like that. It's incredibly lazy at every turn. Alright, so characters. What can I say about the characters? I could say that they don't exist. That's where I'm going to start. They don't exist. I bet you're wondering, Tony, I can see these characters. I can read that they are saying dialogue. How is it that they don't exist, you say? Well, I can say there's either too many of them or they don't exist. Now, here's how I'm going to argue they don't exist. These characters have no character. Take any scene where the chaotic combo, specifically, I'm going to use them because they're the best example of the worst kind. Take any scene where Wild is talking to, say, Chris, right? Now, take any other one of the chaotic combo characters, excluding probably Angelica, and put them in the place of Wild, and the dialogue doesn't seem strange. Because these characters have no defining characteristics in the way that they talk, or the way that they act, you could really put them in the place of any of them. They're just interchangeable. Chainable, that's not a word. Well, might be. I'll make it a word. They're just interchangeable. You can replace Wild, that same situation where Wild is talking to Chris, replace him with Punchy. What do you got? Same thing. Punchy's just talking. Replace Punchy with Bubbles. What do you got? Bubbles is talking. What do you got? Replace it with Angelica. Now you have a character who's talking the same as the other ones, except every other sentence she goes, "Praise the Lord," which is annoying. Okay, it doesn't add character, it just makes her fucking annoying. And I'm not even going to get into the fact that she slept in a church and masturbated in a church. I'm pretty sure if you're as religious as Angelica is supposed to be, those are things that you don't do. That's just me. I'm not a religious man, but I'm just assuming. Now this is probably the thing that you're going to agree with. There's too many fucking characters. There's so many. There's so many to the point where he just drops characters. I will give him that later, in the later things, at least he has some, just this little smidgen of respect for the women who he dubbed his sweethearts. Even though they were trolls, he didn't want to just drop them because to him they were important to his comic, even though you could argue that, well, you don't even have to fucking argue, you could just say it. There's no need for half the human characters. So, I'm getting off track here. What was I saying? Yada yada. Too many characters. Right. He at least makes them die. That's only until like way later. That's not till like issue like 18. Okay, so there's so many characters at the start that they just drop off. They're just gone. Wesley was just gone. He was gone, and he didn't come back until like he was there for like 2 issues, and then came back. How many issues? Like 15 issues later. And there was no reason for him to be gone. It made no sense. And then let's just say in this world this is how it works. He explains it very clearly at the beginning with his retarded gibberish. He basically says the existence of Sonichu and Rosachus in this world exist from the fusion of Sonic with the Pikachu and the Chaos Emerald energy. Now, this makes the eggs of the Chaotic Combo and Sylvana come out, so they exist for a reason. Rosachou gets hit by the rainbow, and that's kind of bullshit, but she exists for a reason. It's incredibly dumb, but she exists for a reason. And Sonichu is the fusion of Sonic and Pikachu, even for some dumb reason Pikachu's gone, but then Sonic still exists, and whatever. So they exist, and they have a reason. They have a very retarded backstory, but it does exist. Other Sonichus don't have that. We don't know why they're here. We don't know the time period which this is happening. We don't know how much time has elapsed between issues. He doesn't state it in the issues. Therefore, it doesn't make sense when Sonichu, this 17-year-old character, meets another Sonichu that is like 23. Isn't Sonichu the first? What the fuck? I mean, Chris's explanation for a few of them, like Darkbind and Bionic, is just like, oh hey, my imagination made them come out. That's why they're here. Yep. Which will get me into my next thing. Chris's existence in this comic. Now, if you haven't noticed, I'm talking about the comic. I really don't give a shit about Christian, alright? A lot of people seem to be getting off track with the whole Sonichu thing, much in the way of Britney Spears. After a while, let's be honest, it wasn't really about Britney Spears' terrible music. It was about how terrible of a person she was. How fucked up she was. And we stopped caring about the music and started caring more about her. And a lot of people have been falling into this sort of syndrome with Sonichu, where you stop caring about how shitty the comic is and more about how shitty Christian is. So I'm really not going to go into detail about how terrible he is, but he doesn't need to be in this comic. One of the things that Dane said to me, which sticks in my mind, it happened, I think, after the last sub-episode. After we finished recording, he came up to me, Tony, have you noticed that when we read stuff that's about Chris, specifically, it's really fucking boring, and that when we read stuff that's about the Sonichu universe, it's really interesting, I say with air quotes, and what he means by interesting is it's a lot more funny, because it's so bad. Chris is just like putting shit in about his life. Nobody gives a shit about your life unless you're like some sort of alien that came from another dimension and you're living on Earth trying to hide your secret, which doesn't exist. Your life isn't interesting. I'm sorry. And Christian specifically, your life is so boring. The only thing that makes it interesting is the trolls that fuck with it. So he doesn't need to be here. His existence just drags down the comic. The existence of his sweethearts as characters drag down the comic. Now, I'm not saying that you can't put yourself in when you're writing a comic or book. You can, that's fine. I think you can put yourself in as a character. That's perfectly acceptable. Now, when you are not the title character and you're the main focus, that's bad. The comic is called Sonichu, The Adventures of Sonichu, not Christian Western Chandler, the comic. Okay? Why is he the main focus? And at least in like the first issue, Sonichu was still the main focus, but then quickly went over to Chris. Bullshit. His sweethearts don't need to be there. He doesn't need to be dragging down this entire thing. He didn't have to. It's just he doesn't need to be there. And I'm not saying that humans can't exist in this world. In Sonic's universe and in the Pokemon universe, humans exist. Humans catch Pokemons. Sonic lives in harmony with his little group of talking animals that somehow live in the same realm as Robotnik and his human people. I mean, go to play Sonic Adventure 1. The main hub city, well, whatever the fuck it's called, I'm just going to call it Hub City. There's people walking around. Don't get me wrong, they're poorly rendered people, but still, they're people. So, the people can exist here. That's perfectly fine. Giovanni can be there. Robotnik can be there. Chris? Fuck no. No, he can't. He can't be this super duper god who's just immune to everything. Does he even get hurt at all in this comic? I can't think of any times where he's, like, in danger. The only time he's in danger is that time where he's, like, falling into the muck, and then for no fucking reason, Slowwheel is like, ooh, what if I stop hurting him and instead hurt one of his girlfriends instead? Like, that's the worst idea ever. I wish she had just killed him there. It would have made the comic way better. So he doesn't need to exist, but human characters can exist. I think that's fine. So as I stated, human characters in Pokemon and Sonichu's universe, which gets me into their individual universes. The universe that we have here, none of them are utilized. None of the characters from these universes are utilized. Pokemon, rarely seen at all, and he doesn't stick to the Pokemon philosophy. And I know. Later he adds things like Transmorphers and fucking Yu-Gi-Oh and whatever, but fuck that shit. It's Pokemon and Sonic. Those are the two main things of this comic. Okay, it's called Sonichu. There's no Pokemon. There's no Ash Ketchum. There's no main characters or even sub-characters from any of the two universes. This is supposed to be a universe where those two are put together, and they're not there. I can only think of one instance where you see a lot of Pokemon, and that's when Bubbles is swimming down and you can see all the underwater Pokemon. And then there's fucking Nate Cirque has Zapdos and Raikou. I know that. Why he never uses it ever is beyond me. Giovanni has Nidoking, I'm pretty sure. That's about it. That's all I can remember from Pokemon. As for Sonic characters, holy shit. There's like two. I remember seeing Amy Rose once, and Robotnik. That's fucking it. It's so retarded. None of the characters are utilized. There's no Robotnik. There's no Ash Ketchum. There's no Brock. None of the Elite Four. The Elite Four would be fucking awesome in this universe, and I'll get into how this universe can be used way later in this review. Or reflection. Whatever the fuck I'm calling it now. So, just no Tails, no Knuckles, no Shadow the Hedgehog. There's no fucking Shadow the Hedgehog, and I'm not saying I'm like a Shadow fanboy, and I think the fact that Shadow is such a popular character, and then just Sega will find any excuse to put him in a game is just kind of annoying at this point. He doesn't need to be in everything. He's not the best character ever. Now, that belongs to Gamma. That's Gamma's rule. Why they killed him is fucking beyond me, Sonic Adventure 1. But anyway, none of these characters are used, and they could have. You could have easily put in the Elite Four. Like I said, that would be awesome. You could have easily put in Tails helping Sonichu or whatever, or helping Sonic. The Tails tornado, he could fly the plane around. I don't know what he's gonna do with that, but fuck, he could have had a romance with Angelica. They both fly. Okay? It's a shitty romance, but they both fly. Whatever. So, and that's about it for that. Now, I guess I'm gonna end characters with just what's the best character and what's the worst character. Now, worst character. I could easily say Christian. I could just easily say him. He bogs down the whole comic, but I mean, you already know he's the worst. I want to pick one that many people don't even think about sometimes. Rosachu. Rosachu, she puzzles me. I point out multiple times in this Let's Read, and Dane himself points it out multiple times. She doesn't fucking do anything. Which puzzles me greatly. She's supposed to be a Raikou mixed with the Chaos Emeralds, their energy. And Sonichu is supposed to be a Pikachu mixed with the Chaos Emeralds. So wouldn't logically you'd think that she would have more power than Sonichu because she's pretty much like an evolution above. Get what I'm saying? So it puzzles me why she pretty much has the same amount of strength, but she doesn't fucking do anything. You know? I love that one picture where Sonic is just fighting all these guys and like he's doing, I think it's with Sarama and Wesley when they're fighting the Golem, which we never see another Golem again. And she sits down crisscross applesauce in the middle of the road and prays for their safety. Why doesn't she help them? She has about as much strength as him, if not more. And she doesn't do anything with it. I can tell you why. It's because Chris is a sexist piece of shit and doesn't want her to have anything. He wants her to cook and clean, which you clearly see in the Christmas special. But it doesn't make sense. I think there's two instances where she fights. There's the obvious I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar comic, which is absolutely ridiculous. I can't even imagine what was going through his head as he wrote that. And then there's the final epic. She helps fight in that one. So, and she has a lightning sword. I don't know where the fuck she gets a lightning sword, but she has one. So she's probably the worst character. I mean, at least Sonichu does stuff. I mean, he's about as much of a little turd-munching piece of shit as Rosachu, but at least he does shit. Now, best character. By far, Magichan. By far. I don't care how stupid his name is. He's the best character by far. Dane will most likely agree with me. Just Magichan all the way. He's the best character no matter how you look at him. He does stuff. He has the coolest abilities. He has the coolest backstory. Now, please realize when I say coolest backstory, I mean in relative terms, I can't talk today, turns to Sonichu. So look at the other chaotic combo people. It's just like, Wild fell into a forest and a scyther taught him stuff. Then Bubbles. She fell in the ocean and a swamper taught her stuff. Angelica. She fell in a church and now she's a nun. Punchy. He fell in a dojo and now he can punch. Magichan. He fell in a secluded cave away from all civilization and he was trained telepathically by Mewtwo. That's very cool. That's actually cool no matter how you look at it, even outside of Sonichu. That's a very interesting idea for a character, to be telepathically trained to use, magic abilities. That's really cool. And it's in this cave, which we never see again, surprisingly. We never see Mewtwo either, which pisses me off. He's one of my favorites, especially in Melee. I know he's really shitty, but I think he's cool in Melee. I like how he floats around. I'm getting off track, thinking of good things. So he's by far the best, and he really is the driving force between a lot of the parts in the comic, and without him existing, he'd easily be replaced by Chris. There's a lot of the scenes where he's doing things like telepathically talking to people and teleporting people. If Magichan didn't exist, those are Chris's powers. Chris would immediately gain those powers. Thank you for Magichan existing. That way Chris would have less shit. Less abilities. He already has fucking everything. He doesn't need those. So by far, Magichan all the way. So, let's see. Overall, just details that I'm missing before I go into the story, which will probably take the majority of this video. There's the overall racist, sexist, and homophobic feel of the comic, which I described. Chris's existence, the sub-episodes with Chris, those don't need to exist. I think they'd be really funny if they continued going, but his mother stopped him. So, I guess she's a good mother for doing that. Good luck, taking care of him, Snorlax. And then, something not related to the comics, but if you're one of those people who really cares more about Chris, then I really suggest you just go and watch videos on the Quickville Library. It's a YouTube page that goes by the name of the Quickville Library. And there's actually a section of this called the Quickville Animated Library, which I haven't gone to yet. But I've watched all the videos on the Quickville Library before recording this. Oh man, they're funny. Every video with Chris is funny. One of the ones that stands out to me the most is this one interview from a guy, I think he might have worked for that guy with the glasses. I don't remember his name. But he actually got an interview, a Skype call with Chris. It's the funniest thing ever. Holy shit, it's so funny. Every time Chris talks, it's hilarious. Every time you look at the guy's face, you just feel so bad for him. He feels like he feels like someone is taking just imagine taking a wisp, you use for wisping cake batter, and you just stick a bunch of thumbtacks on the wisp. And you know how the wisp moves around? Now take that wisp and you just wave it around that dude's nutsack. That's what I imagine he's feeling as he has to talk to Chris. Favorite part of the interview, by the way. He's about to ask Chris a question, and he was really trying hard to transition away from video games because that's all Chris talks about half the time. He's trying to transition really hard. And he asks a very good question. I forget what the question was, but it was a question that should have been answered. It was really good. And Chris immediately rebuttals with this. No, I would rather talk more about Little Big Planet instead. So then they talked about that, and I'm like, no, you're not the fucking interviewer. You answer his questions. He doesn't discuss with you about Little Big Planet, you piece of shit. It's really funny, and I recommend going to the Quickville Library when you get the chance. You could just skip over the music video section, because that's just Chris singing over popular songs. Well, not popular, but like Guitar Hero songs and karaoke type songs. And I bet you're thinking that's really funny, but the way it's done is the music is actually louder than his voice, so you can't really hear him half the time, so it's not really that funny. It's more just straining your ears to hear him just to laugh, and you kind of don't want to laugh because you're straining yourself, and then you'll get distracted. So I recommend watching videos on Chris. He's really fucking funny because he's such a piece of shit. So on to the story. Oh boy, the story. Where should I begin? There's no direction. The story has no direction. One direction. It has one direction. No, it has no story at all. For shit's sake. Let's be honest, people. Look at the beginning. It starts out, its basic premise is basically Sonichu, this Sonic Pikachu fan character, goes around, stops evil. But there's nothing that happens. The first comic, he stops Robotnik and Giovanni and fucking whatever. But where does it go from there? It doesn't go any farther using the Sonichu character. The only reason this comic goes farther is, and I say goes farther in just the loosest way possible, is because Chris himself is in the comic and he forces the comic forward. He's mad at Slow Wheel. That's why she exists. That's why they gotta go beat her up. That's why any Sonichu that exists automatically has to help Chris. I mean, even Blake, who was specifically designed not to help him, just suddenly does it. It's just so sporadic. He just all of a sudden wants to. It's not like he has any real reason to be angry at Robotnik and wants to stop him. It's not like the actual Shadow the Hedgehog who has a reason to be angry at Robotnik. Blake just fucking helps Chris because Chris tells him to. So this comic really has no direction outside of just Chris saying, let's make the story go forward. So, in the next thing, because there's no direction, there's no pacing. Get what I'm saying? The comic doesn't really have any sort of it doesn't really have a story. It has no real pacing. There's just things happen, and they happen because Chris says they do. There's just no real reason for anything happening. There's only really one part where the characters don't have Chris, and they're propelling their own story. And I'm not going to use Date Ed, the dating class issue. That's not even a fucking issue. I don't even count that. It's the one comic where Rosachu turns into the giant beast, the mantis boob beast. And trust me, it's stupid. Rosachu sees porn on the internet of her, drawn by fan art, and she wants to put her own porn to counteract that. It's a stupid story. It's really a dumb idea to keep the story going forward while Chris is stuck in the void. But hey, it's something that's not Chris. It's something that the characters themselves are doing because they want to do it. Rosachu feels that 4chan is just dishonoring her. That is why Sonichu and her go to the 4chan building. They don't go there because Chris tells them to. They go there because they feel they have to, the characters. And that's really the only point in time where you feel the characters are doing something because they want to. Other than that, there's no pacing. They don't do anything without Chris's permission. It's really obnoxious. Alright, now this is something that's going to be controversial. I don't think this is the worst idea for a comic. At its basic premise, like I've said before, Sonichu is Pikachu and Sonic morphed together, morphing the two universes to create one universe, and he fights crime. That's not the worst idea ever. I can think of a lot worse ideas. Gandalf, butt-ass naked, having a beer with Albert Einstein, and then they have to go on a quest to find Abraham Lincoln's mustache. That's a dumb idea. It could work. Anything could work. Any idea, no matter how dumb it is, it can work. It just takes more effort to make it work. And no effort was obviously put into this comic. So, had there been effort, it would have worked. The story at its basic premise is just Sonichu, Pikachu, and Sonic, two universes together, they fight crime. Which I think is a decent idea. I can think off the top of my head how we could have utilized this better. I'm just going to give you an idea. Everything else here, I pretty much wrote bullet points, but this is really off the top of my head here. Let's see. Alright. The reason the universes are put together is because Robotnik and Giovanni are both working on dimensional generators to go to other dimensions to take over those dimensions. Giovanni to find new Pokemon, and Robotnik to find a dimension where he could probably enslave monsters to work for him to beat Sonic. So, they both build dimensional generators. At the same time, they turn them on, forcing the two universes to collide, morphing together, forming one universe. And in doing so, creating the Sonichus and the main character, Sonichu. While also utilizing, like, the whole map would be Sonic's world, but it would also include the Pokemon and, trainers. So, then there's Sonichu, which for some reason that we don't know, is a combination of Sonic and Pikachu. We know that, but we don't know, he happens to know that the universes were once separate. He just wakes up and he doesn't know why he's like this. And we have to figure out why. That's what propels the comic. He has to figure out why he's like this. It's like in Mystery Dungeon. Why does your character wake up as a Pokemon? Why does he have the dimensional scream ability? We need to know. That's why he keeps going on his journey. And then, in Mystery Dungeon, you do it because you're a good guy, but Sonichu does it because he needs to know his story, and then he finds Rosachu, and he loves her, and falls in love, and meets everybody else, and yada yada. The first issue could just be him fighting Robotnik. Robotnik is in this dimension, and he knows this dimension acts as if it has always been here. So Robotnik just acts like normal and uses the monsters, or not monsters, the robots to fight people. Sonichu kills the monsters. So, or robots. Keep mixing it up here. Next issue, he fights Giovanni. Giovanni's using evil Pokemon to take over the world while Robotnik is recovering. Next issue, they discuss. Sonichu is contacted telepathically by Magichan without knowing it's Magichan, and is told to go to an island. On this island, all of the Chaotic Combo, which are now a separate group, they lead their own elemental type. Bubbles leads the water type. Angelica leads the flying type, and Magichan is the only one not leading a tribe of his own, and he's in the middle of a mountain. And each of the tribes have their own Chaos Emerald, except for Magichan, who holds the Master Emerald in a mountain in the middle of this island, which has like other islands where the tribes live. And Sonichu has to go there to combine everybody together because the only other person that knows about the dimensions going together is Madachan. So that's why he brought Sonichu there. So everybody's happy and they all work together. And then the fourth issue, he returns back to the main island away from Chaos Emerald Island, and Blake is now there. Black Sonichu. Used from DNA, the same thing, except for the fucking Pepsi thing. Coca-Cola Cherry, whatever. Robotnik and Giovanni are now working together, which makes Sonichu feel inferior, and he has to defeat Blake. But he now has a chaotic combo. You see what I'm saying? I just thought this up at the top of my head, and I'm easily making a better comic just by talking. Which, I hope that sounded at least somewhat more interesting than the actual Sonichu comic. Which now leads me to... I'm now done. I'm done talking about Sonichu. I'm going to talk about you guys, the viewers. I talked about remaking the comic, how I just said it could have been utilized better. There are people who have done this. There are people who have made the comic better. I actually planned to do this reflection when I first started this. I planned to actually talk about some of the remakes, but I only found one that I really thought was really good. And it's called Sonichu Redemption. It's really good. I liked it. I thought it was really good. Why I'm bringing it up here is I was going to mention it, but as I was doing this Let's Read, the author of the comic, the drawer, his name is, how do I pronounce it? Neyola 298. Pick a less complicated name, please. If you plan to have me talk about you. He actually started watching my Let's Reads, and he told me he was the writer of the comic, and he asked me to mention him, and I was going to do it anyway, but here I am mentioning him, and he's really good. He put a lot of time and effort into his remake. He has sketches on his DeviantArt page of all the character designs, and he has multiple sketches. He resketched characters. When people gave him suggestions, he resketched the characters to look different based on those suggestions. He's a very nice guy, actually. I've talked to him a little bit. He's very polite. He's very nice. He, at least I assume he reads all the comments. The ones he doesn't respond to, I assume he reads. But he responds to most of the comments. He takes criticism well. He's a very good artist. If you'll notice, am I saying he's perfect? No. No. He's not perfect, okay? Nobody's perfect. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say that you're the greatest guy ever. I'm going to say you're really good, which you are. He takes criticism well, and you can notice one thing about his art, which I really do like, is using the criticism and using his evolving talents, I guess I should say. You'll notice the first picture of the Sonichu comic, Sonichu Redemption, he calls it, is not that good. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's decent. But the later pictures, even still, this comic was drawn a while ago, so his art has improved dramatically. You'll notice over the course of the comic itself, reading it, he improves his art, and it looks good. He does a good job. He improves. He takes suggestion. He reads the comments. So he does a good job. And he puts in little things that make me happy. He puts in Dragon Ball Z references, which is why I actually got to be honest, the main reason I wanted to talk about him originally was I saw he did a Dragon Ball Z reference, and that immediately caught my attention. I was like, bro, you're awesome. I'm going to talk about you. And hopefully you'll hear me out. Which he did. He started watching me. So that's Neyola 298. He's really good. I want you to check him out. I'm going to put his link in the description. Speaking of the description links, I'm not just putting him. Throughout the course of the comic, before he started watching me and told me about his and went into more detail and I talked with him, there were other people leaving comments. I don't remember all of you guys, but I remember you guys saying stuff. There was like 2 or 3 of you. A lot of you who happen to be my viewers are actually artists. I don't know if you guys know that the other people that watch me are artists just like you. But yeah, I'm creepy. As soon as you subscribe to me, I immediately look at your page. I'm not even joking. As soon as I get a subscriber, I immediately look at their page and see if they do Let's Plays, if they do videos. I watch you guys' videos. I find everybody interesting. I really enjoy looking at your DeviantArt pages. So if you do art and you have a DeviantArt and you don't have it connected to your YouTube page and you're subscribed to me, do it so I can read your stuff. Because I'm creepy like that. But enough of that. A few of you guys said you were going to redo the comic, which I think is interesting. One guy was in the sketches portion, another one was just thinking about it, which I think is cool. I really do like how you guys want to remake this. I know you guys kind of want to do it because it's shitty, and I don't know, you have your reasons, but it's good. It's a good idea. If you happen to have already done it and I just don't know about it, then let me know. If you're working on it, then let me know. I want to hear about it. If you've already done it, you've already started your first page, then please tell me. Send me a link to your DeviantArt page. Send me a link to your first comic page, and I will put it in the description next to Neola98 or 298. Yeah, I will put you in the description as well. I'll give you a little basic thing. I'll say this is so and so. He did this. I like it because, and I'll put you in there. So anybody at all who's done a remake and you want me to put them in the description, let me know and I will gladly do it. I want this to be not only a reflection video, but I want you guys, if you happen to have done any art relating to what I'm doing in a Let's Read, let me know and it will be in the description of my reflection. And that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed my reflection. I hope you can go away learning a little bit of something. I hope if you're an artist, then you'll let me know, and maybe I'll link you in there if you've already started your remake. If you haven't, if you're just a basic artist at all, and you send me your pictures, I'll look at them. I just overall hope you enjoyed the Let's Read. I hope you enjoyed me and Dane and everything. I definitely enjoyed reading all your comments. I enjoyed just doing it. It was fun. So I'll see you guys on the next Let's Read. And if you're wondering what that's going to be, I'm going to give you a bit of a hint. The hint is that me and a friend of mine, Andrew, we have a date. We have a date with a girl named Ebony, also sometimes pronounced Eneby. And can you guess where we're going for that date? We're going to go to a Good Charlotte concert. Yeah. So I'll see you guys on the next Let's Read. Have a nice day.